Shadow the Hedgehog.
I am Shadow
Do
the
you
Hedgehog.
actually believe
Don't
that
bother to try and deceive me.
this isn't who you
I
are?
know who I am.
You're the real Shadow?
I'm not real.
He was what he was.
Still the ultimate life form.
This is the destiny I choose. This is who I am.
Who is Shadow the Hedgehog? Hey, you look nice today. I'm Juice, and welcome to my character analysis of Shadow the Hedgehog. But who is that? It seems like everyone and their mother tries to answer that question for him. Gerald, Black Doom, Eggman, and even Maria try to tell him who he is and what he was made for. But does his past truly define him? And how can he overcome being a slave to his supposed purpose? Shadow is a character who struggles to live for himself, and that's what I want to discuss today. With the recent Sonic X Shadow Generations releasing a few months ago, and that game story giving us new insight into Shadow's psyche, now's the perfect time. So let's talk about the best character in Sonic. No, the ultimate character in Sonic. That's right, I said it. What are you gonna do about it? Subscribe? Yeah, you better. I love this character, both for his level of complexity and nuance, and the lessons the game he leads in try to instill in us.
Oh, you love him, huh? What's next? Are you gonna take him on a date?
Date? You think this is a joke, you little brat?
Oh, come on! I was only teasing you. I love Shadow too.
Let's get moving. To speak on where Shadow is today, we have to first step into his history. So let's use Chaos Control and time travel 50 years in the past to find out why he was first created. Welcome, Mr. Hedgehog. If you're comfortable, I'd like to learn about your life. Why don't you start from the beginning? Tell me a little bit about your childhood. Gerald Robotnik, the Earth's most brilliant scientist and grandfather of our beloved Dr. Eggman, created the world's ninth wonder, the space colony Ark. While aboard the Ark, the president asked him to start development on a project that can lead them to immortality, mankind's ultimate dream. Gerald found the concept impossible, almost laughable, and as intangible as a shadow. But he had to comply, otherwise his funding for research stops. And thus, Project Shadow was born. Not just because of the president's wishes, but for his granddaughter, Maria, who was diagnosed with neuroimmunodeficiency syndrome, or NIDS, an incurable and terminal disease. This was the real driving force behind the research. The experiments weren't going very well, but the leader of the Black Arms and alien warlord, Black Doom, called out to Gerald and offered him his DNA, which would provide immortality along with the mastered ability of chaos control to an artificial life form. In exchange, said life form would aid in the plan to invade Earth in 50 years. What could go wrong? Now that there was more hope for success, Maria, believing that she would be cured, came up with a new, positive spin on the name Project Shadow. After all, a shadow shows you which way to find the light, so with a glitter in her eye, she named the unfinished specimen Shadow. She even helped design the accessories he would need in order to control his power, like his air shoes and inhibitor rings. How adorable. This unwavering optimism moved Gerald, and from there, he decided that Shadow would be created to champion light and hope. Thus, Project Shadow, the ultimate life form, was complete. As they were raised alongside each other, Shadow and Maria became emotional support pillars for one another, helping each other learn and understand life as they knew it aboard the Ark. The two were absolutely inseparable and cared deeply for each other. Something important to keep in mind is just how much Shadow shoulders the responsibility of saving Maria, and how down on himself he gets when progress towards that goal is slow. Here is where we get to the start of what makes Shadow a deep and interesting character. See, it was thrust upon him from the moment he was born what his purpose was, and he shoulders that responsibility. He takes it very seriously. But this is where our story aboard the Ark comes to an abrupt end. After multiple experiments gone wrong, Gunn was sent to raid the Ark to destroy Project Shadow, and any who did not comply would die at their hands. Gerald was captured, and, well, you know how it goes. Shadow tries to escape with Maria, and she is shot in the hallway.
Maria!
Before dying, she was able to send Shadow to Earth with the final words.
For all people who live on that planet, give them a chance to be happy. Let them live for their dreams. Shadow, I know you can do it. That's the reason why you were brought into this world.
Afterwards, Gerald finds Maria's name in the list of those who died upon the raid of the Ark. All he wanted was to piece together his broken family and cure his granddaughter. but instead sacrificed his morals, descends into madness, and plots revenge against all of humanity. He reprograms Shadow to leave the world in destruction if awakened once again, blocking out and contorting Shadow's memories of what happened on and before that day. As you can see, there are already multiple parties that have a different idea for what Shadow's purpose is and what he should live for. The key to immortality for the President, the ultimate weapon for a planetary invasion for Black Doom, to champion light and hope and be the key to curing Maria for Gerald, and to give the people of Earth a reason to be happy for Maria. These seeds were planted before he was even born, and they'll only blossom into an absolute shattering of Shadow's identity. We've only just begun. Wow, okay, can I pause you there for a second? No, because you're too fast and it's not your fault that I can't keep up. That's really what we're doing. Jumping 50 years later into Sonic Adventure 2, Shadow is awakened by Dr. Eggman. He pledges loyalty to the Doctor in gratitude and says he will grant him one wish, but carries out his engineered mission in secret. Find the 7 Chaos Emeralds and use them to send the Ark careening toward the Earth, extinguishing all life to take revenge against humanity for taking away Maria. This is what he believes his purpose is, which is very sad considering the empathetic side of the character we previously saw. Luckily for Shadow, it just so happens that Eggman's plans to threaten the world with the Eclipse Cannon line up with his goal to destroy it, making it much easier to conceal. However, throughout the game and despite Gerald's brainwashing, there are certain scenes where we can see Shadow's blocked memories trying to break through. While very skewed, they still influence him to save Rouge on Prison Island because she reminded him of Maria. He didn't want to lose someone else, even if he couldn't admit it. And here, take a look at these lyrics from White Jungle. It seems like some of those memories have been trying to make their way into Shadow's conscious mind. He feels like something isn't right about what he's doing here, but then just pushes it down and keeps going anyway. This whole pushing feelings down thing is something that's actually pretty important, and we're going to talk about it later. But for now, we return to the story aboard the Ark with the 7 Chaos Emeralds inserted into the Eclipse Cannon. And you know what that means. The space colony is racing toward the Earth! Gerald's plan has begun. But while the world is on the brink of destruction, Amy, with her pure heart, approaches Shadow and pleads for his help by saying that people may fight over trivial things and can be selfish, but everyone's trying their best to be happy, so give them a chance. It's these words that trigger some of Shadow's true memories to unlock, and he saves the day. While Shadow successfully overcomes Gerald's brainwashing, putting an end to a rampaging bio-lizard and preventing the late Doctor's doomsday device on the Ark, he can't maintain his super form and plummets to the Earth as a consequence, never to be seen again. I think that was brave of you. I couldn't imagine how difficult that must have been. Just to make sure, you tried to blow up the Earth? Okay, yeah, just making sure I heard that one right. No biggie, be kind to yourself. Shadow had somehow managed to survive his fall to Earth. Guess that title of Ultimate Life Form is no joke. However, he now suffers from amnesia. He's found by Rouge, floating in a stasis pod, protected by Omega. Shadow awakens without any memory of who he is or where he came from. The three join forces to find Eggman for their own selfish reasons. For Shadow, that was wanting to find the truth about his past. Despite not knowing who he is, he still retains that smug demeanor that we've come to know and love, all the while staying serious and focusing on his goal of finding Eggman, letting nothing stand in his way. At the end of it all, they, together with Sonic and friends, once again save the day and defeat Metal Sonic. However, this journey only ended with more questions for Shadow, with no answers from Eggman or anyone else. Who is that hedgehog that looks like my twin? Do I have a past to remember? Am I even real? Would you like to hear what I think about this? No? Just no. Awesome. So, tell me a little bit more about this, Doom fellow in your life. And here we open with Shadow pondering those very questions. But then a floating eye, I wonder who that is, shows up to say that Shadow promised to bring the 7 Chaos Emeralds to him. And before Shadow could question him any further, he flies off. Shadow is reminded that collecting the 7 emeralds can make a miracle happen, and that could lead him to finding the truth behind his past. This is how we begin our journey. To summarize, you can take a dark path, neutral path, or hero path in almost every mission, and what you choose to do dictates what Shadow uncovers about his past and who he aligns himself with. But none of these paths are canonical. After completing the 10 main endings, you unlock a true canon ending, where regardless of which of the 326 paths you took to collect the emeralds, you end up on the Black Comet, the one that is said to appear every 50 years, and the one that brought the invasion to the planet. Black Doom wants to eliminate mankind and use them as livestock as an energy source for his own species. Food for thought, we do the same thing on our planet. He then steals the emeralds you collected and tries to initiate his plan, but Shadow doesn't like that very much, and he chases Black Doom through the comet until he's face to face with the man himself. Before we finish this game's story, I need to say something that I feel is important. Let's just say I don't think this game butchered his character like a lot of people say. People criticize the writing of this game for making Shadow out of character, but I actually don't think this is true. While I don't think it was executed well due to the branching pathway system never completely flushing out many of its ideas, and you needing to have a chart in front of you just to see the ones that are cohesive and consistent, I think it's always been in Shadow's character to be the way he is in this game. Yeah, maybe him saying he likes to steal candy from babies is a little much, but I mean the real overarching themes. Others might say that the real Shadow, the one who went through what he went through in Sonic Adventure 2, would never do the things he does in this game and let Black Doom destroy the planet. But that was that Shadow. That wasn't a Shadow who suffers from amnesia, where the only way he can find out more about his true purpose and identity is to listen to those around him. He's manipulated by both Eggman and Black Doom in this game because they tease him with the puzzle pieces he needs to make himself whole again, while none of his friends ever tell him about what happened in his past. He's like an infant, extremely susceptible to the information around him becoming his truth, like a sponge. This was true from his inception, as I laid out earlier when speaking about Project Shadow, and how he was expected to become a beacon of light and hope. From being shown visions of what the humans did, and leading him to believe that they no longer deserve to exist, to being told he's an android, it seems far-fetched to us, the player, but not so much the character who doesn't know anything about himself and sees an army of shadow androids around him in a world where this sort of thing is commonplace. The entire point of these storylines in Shadow the Hedgehog is to show how influenced we can be by our environment, the people we spend our time with, and the information we're given from them. To say this doesn't line up with Shadow's character would be to misunderstand his entire story arc in Sonic Adventure 2, where his memories were manipulated by Gerald to fulfill his master plan of revenge because of the loss of Maria, to destroy the Earth and all of its inhabitants. Tell me again that he wouldn't destroy the planet if he thought it was his reason for existing? It wasn't until he learned that Maria wanted him to protect humanity that his goal completely shifted and he succeeded with the help of Sonic. He had no real will of his own there either, and after his wrongdoings, he was willing to die for that cause. But this game's ending is different. Shadow learns about the deal made between Gerald and Black Doom that led to his creation, but moves forward in spite of this. Everything I've talked about up until this point serves this moment. If the game was once subtle about its themes of manipulation, it certainly no longer is by this point. Black Doom says this:
You are a part of me. Do you feel that? I can control you. You cannot escape me, nor can you escape your past.
But an old transmission from Gerald from before he was locked away reminds Shadow of his truth, the purpose he gave him, to be a beacon of hope for humanity. And Shadow says this:
I made a promise and I'm here to keep it. Today, I put my past behind me.
He's done searching for his purpose. This is all the confirmation he needed to take Black Doom down, and then he's moving on. Black Doom is the representation of that past, so...
Only one thing left to do. To put the past behind me. Chaos Control!
Man, it's a good thing Shadow has good aim, otherwise he might have accidentally fulfilled Gerald's other plan. The title ends with Shadow throwing a picture of Gerald and Maria to the wayside, saying, "Adios, Shadow the Hedgehog." A goodbye to the Shadow that once was, the picture representing his past self as to say he is no longer serving his past, or anyone from it. His purpose is no longer dictated by ghosts. Truly powerful stuff. You know if you've ever played this game that it stumbles on execution, but it gets Shadow right. And that's a lot more than I can say about a lot of the games that followed it. Speaking of which, here's where things start to get interesting. So, daddy issues on both sides, huh? No, not funny. Okay. No, Dr. Evil, this isn't the time to interject. What are you even doing here? Your session isn't until next week. Both Sonic 06 and Shadow Generations are sequels to Shadow the Hedgehog, but explore two different things. Sonic 06 takes a natural and thematic approach here, not forgetting about what Shadow recently went through, and focusing on how he would act moving forward. It shows how Shadow is living for himself now, doing what he wants to do, which is seemingly protecting humanity anyway by joining Gun and helping from the inside. This is cool, especially because Abraham Towers and the President vow to build a faultless future to make amends both with Shadow and to the victims of the incident aboard the Ark. It shows the connection Shadow made with Rouge and Omega weren't just surface level, he's finally living in the present. It couldn't be shown in any better way than when Mephiles tries manipulating him, saying that humanity betrays him in the future out of fear. Yeah, you wanna know what Shadow says to this? Only the hardest line of all time.
If the world chooses to become my enemy, I will fight like I always have.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. He's already been through this. He's living for today, not yesterday, not tomorrow. And Shadow's not afraid, especially not of his own shadow. Generations takes a different approach. Correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I'm hearing, it seems like you've been chasing this feeling of fulfilling a purpose ever since you were unable to save your friend Maria. Your identity was tied to it. Could it be that's why you're always so focused on completing your missions? So that you can feel that fulfillment? I wonder what it would be like if anyone ever told you that they were proud of you. Oh, you don't need anyone, and you're only so focused because you eat coffee beans. Remember when I was talking about Sonic Adventure 2 and how Shadow buries his feelings? People do it all the time, consciously or not. It's something that I can personally relate to. In that game, it was more like he began seeing things and feeling things that didn't make sense, things that didn't align with his mission, and so he pushed them down and away. This story says something different about Shadow throwing away his past that completely recontextualizes the ending of Shadow the Hedgehog. That's right, Shadow Generations takes a psychological approach in continuing this story, and I couldn't be happier. It wasn't just his past he was throwing away, but also his feelings of sadness over losing those he cared for the most. There wasn't a single thing about his past he wanted to remember, and that includes that pain. This entire time, it was buried, either because of his tampered memories or because of amnesia. He could never actually process that loss. Now though, he remembers and understands enough to really feel the heartbreak, and so he closes off to numb it. But bottling those emotions is dangerous. They can control you. This game's story opens up with Shadow's mind being toyed with, broken visions of his past flashing before his eyes, all things contorted and out of place. An all too familiar feeling. The Black Arms have returned, and Shadow is determined to make his way to the Ark once again. And on his way, we find him daydreaming about Maria.
Stop that! That life was taken from me long ago. I need to focus on the mission at hand.
This is a beautiful cutscene, and one that wonderfully depicts what someone would go through when trying to move on from somebody they lost. Once Shadow makes it to the Ark, he runs through some sort of physical distortion to find his suspicions all but true. Black Doom has returned. Following this, he is pulled into white space. No, not that one, but a broken realm between dimensions of time and space, where all things have been torn from their original location and placed here, void of any form of time. He sees Maria, but shakes it off. No, she can't be real. But then...
Maria.
Shadow!
He's in disbelief. He's still closed off despite Maria and Gerald being right in front of him. He won't hug back. Why become attached again? It's only gonna hurt more when she leaves. Unless he can change their fate. Throughout the game, Shadow obtains what's known as Doom powers, augments that strengthen Shadow and give him the powers necessary to take on the challenges ahead. Said augments were designed by Black Doom himself, and the stronger Shadow becomes, the stronger Black Doom becomes. As the story goes on, you can see Shadow struggling to contain the anger he has for Doom and the situation he's been put into. These dark powers represent everything Black Doom wants him to be. a destroyer, a warrior, a husk for his plans. The more Shadow gives into his anger, the easier it is for Black Doom to take over his body, and this black energy swirling around him along with his eyes lighting up red is the visual representation of that. Maria sees this, and you can tell how visibly upset and emotional it makes her. She knows this isn't who Shadow is, and then, with determination in her heart, tells Shadow the reason why she named him. Because without light, there's only darkness. But a shadow will show you where to find the light. And when we look at the shadow in this cutscene, we see Maria holding him, and the light beaming behind her. Maria is that light. Shadow obtains his final Doom power, but then Black Doom calls to claim him. Shadow screams and dispels this darkness. Now, light shines around him. He's letting go of his anger, but will continue to fight with Maria's wish in his heart, for everyone to have a chance to be happy, and that includes Shadow, as he gives a genuine smile. He resolves to fight against the representation of the monster he could become if he doesn't follow that light, if he continues to push down his feelings, the negativity that would allow someone else to control him. He destroys Black Doom, but now he has to truly confront the hardest challenge yet. Shadow let Maria back into his heart and doesn't want to let her go again. He doesn't want to face that pain. He wants to use chaos control to freeze the moment, change their fate, but Maria says no. It's okay to let go. They'll always be in each other's hearts. And with that, Shadow runs off into the future with tears in his eyes. Tears that come from finally beginning the tumultuous task of grieving those he's lost. Allowing himself to feel the pain he's pushed away, letting go. Thanks to Maria, he has the strength he needs to confront not only losing her, but the identity thrust upon him since birth. That he couldn't be the key to saving her after all, and that's okay. Because there's still life to live. Free from the purpose once given to you, you're allowed to live for yourself. That's beautiful. If Sonic Generations is about celebrating the past, taking a romp through everything Sonic has experienced, things he himself doesn't even remember or care about like it's rain off of his back, Shadow Generations is the opposite of this. It's about accepting the past and moving forward into the future, living with it, because that's all we can do. So, who is Shadow the Hedgehog? Well, he's a lot of things. He's the ultimate life form. He's a beacon of light and hope for all of humanity. He's a warrior. He's a heroic hedgehog who gave his life to save the planet. He is all of him. And he shows us it's okay to move forward in life, regardless of not knowing where you belong or what's come before. That we're not defined by our past. That we can give ourselves our own purpose. Thank you so much for watching. Well, thanks for coming in, Mr. Hedgehog. I hope you learned a lot about yourself. You didn't? Okay. Could you subscribe? No. Okay. That'll be $600,000. And an even bigger thank you to all of my YouTube members and patrons, but especially Ice Crystal, George, Cloudstrife Simp, and Amy Durand. Thank you so much. If you want to see our character analysis shorts early, get cute emotes for live streams, and have your name in the credits, then consider becoming a member. If you want to see all content early, behind-the-scenes content, and vocal shoutouts for credits, then consider joining the Patreon. Either way, you get some pretty good perks. Shoutouts to Iggy, of course, for editing this video, and I want to let you guys know that I rewrote this entire script in 1 week after the release of Shadow Generations with some help from a couple of my friends. New game releases will do that to you. Also, we have a ton planned for 2025, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and give this video a like if you haven't yet. We have analyses on Sonic, Tails, and Gamma already, so if you're a Sonic fan, make sure you go check those out. That's all for now. Have an amazing day, or else. Take care.